All right, welcome everyone to tonight's select board meeting. Today's Monday, October 28th. I'm Sabrina Dunlap and we have Ken Prom, Stephen Whitley and Thomas Lampoma, and Jeff Donahoe cannot be with us tonight. So first up is points of pride.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to welcome Lisette Sid, who is our new human service coordinator. This is week 2 for her. And she has been extremely busy getting ready for Thanksgiving and the holidays, other holidays, and with the clients. So it's just, I am especially happy she's here. Last Friday was the Dial-A-Ride driver appreciation lunch, celebrating 45 years that Dial-A-Ride has been there, which is pretty amazing. On Wednesday night will be the food pantry appreciation dinner, which is put on by our Human Service Advisory Committee. So that is good. I'm not sure how long the food pantry's been there. A long time too. I don't think quite that long. On Saturday, I think there were 350 people or so at the Halloween Touch a Truck event, Touch a Cruiser event. The PD and the fire department and the DPW all took part too. And it was a great turnout. We heard really good things. And as of last Friday, it was the anniversary, and the town clerk tax collector begins its 7th year in this building. Oh, wow. Can you believe it was 6 years ago last Friday that they moved?
No.
So,
wow.
And it happens to be a former employee's birthday, which is the only reason it's on my calendar. It's not really to remember that day, but it just happened to pop up. So I think that is it for now.
All right, thank you.
I'll just add about the cemetery walk. And our own Hermit, who is one of the stars of the show. And just want to thank everybody that was involved. I think we've gone to all but one of the walks, and I think this was certainly one of the best, if not the best. And the weather certainly cooperated.
That's great. All right, we'll move on to administrative. First up is approval of the consent agenda.
Move we approve the consent agenda for October 28, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approval of the public meeting minutes from October 8th, 2024.
So moved.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And approval of public meeting minutes from October 15th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, yeah, so the 8th was the joint meeting, right?
A joint
Okay.
meeting and a regular meeting.
Right. Okay. All right, we have one public appointment tonight with Police Chief TJ Hennessy.
Thank you for your time. Speaking of anniversaries, it'll be 3 years as chief on October 31st.
Wow,
It'll be 20 years with the department as of March 15th. So,
that's awesome.
Wow.
Wow.
so
Last week was my 15th anniversary.
These are all wonderful anniversaries. I love it.
so the reason why I'm here in front of you guys today, well, first of all, I appreciate you having the time to let me go in front of you guys, and I know you have a lot on your agenda, so I'll try to be as quick as I can, but to the point. So something I'm very passionate about, which when I went for my master's degree, I studied a lot of, was police recruitment and retention. We have a full staff.
Thank you.
As of right now, which is the fourth time we've been full staff in my 20-year career here. 2 of the times were with me, and then we lost an officer, which was okay, and then we hired and we're full staff again. So my goal is obviously, and has been as chief, to maintain the current staffing levels. That has been my pride and joy. That's something I'm really passionate about. This, which I'm going to propose to you today, will also, if we do lose an officer, help for future recruitment of other certified officers. I've had, since I've been here, approximately 16 officers.
Here, you should be, but if you use that and just make sure you.
Okay.
Yep, that should pick you up.
Anyway. All right, so since I've been here, we've had about 16 officers leave the department, probably a little bit more by last time I counted, but it's about $110,000 to train an officer full-time and about a year's worth of work. So that includes uniforms, the field training officer's time, fuel, their time at the academy, so on and so forth. So about 110 officers, I'm sorry, $110,000. More than 16 officers have left. If you do the math, that's $1.6 million we've let walk out the door. Take a fraction of that and just invest it into the officers that we have now, and we can retain them. So it would be better to have an officer who's been here than a new guy going out on patrol, answering calls and making mistakes. The longer the officer's been here, the more training they've had, the more exposure to the townspeople they've had, and just overall general better officers. Yeah, that one. Okay, so some numbers across the US. Police departments have seen a 30 to 50% decrease in job applications, which we're about in the same boat. 86 of the departments reported difficulty, with 30% of those having significant challenges hiring new officers. Overall staffing levels are 3% down, and vacancy rates are as much as 10 to 15%, and even 20 to 25% in departments across the US. So we're not immune to this, we're part of that. So what other towns are offering? The top one's the one I'm a little bit worried about. The Warner has a detective corporal position, $15,000 sign-on bonus, and starting pay is $72,000. That's very enticing to some of our officers. Webster, they have a patrol officer position. They're offering $65,000 to $70,000 to start. Hopkinton, we're about $52,000 to start. Total sworn in officers in the US from January of 2023 to January, from January of 2020, 4.8% lower. So the trend is everything is going down. Applicants, hiring, except for officers leaving, is going up. This is a short video that kind of pertains to this, so I'm just going to play this real quick. So,
In the last,
Got it.
had 40 officers with
this is about 3 weeks ago, just so you know.
in their officers, that their decision the current climate against police officers in the country to change retirement benefits here in the state, or simply to make more money and not have to work nights, weekends, and holidays in jobs outside the industry. Departments are doing whatever they can to recruit, but aren't seeing a fraction of what is needed to fill the gaps.
We want to keep our high standards that we've always had, that's fine. So we tend to take the time to hire candidates, because we want to hire the best candidate possible.
This is just a glimpse of what departments are calling nationwide crisis. Right now in Nashua, the department is down 22 officers of the 182 who have the management scope. The department is down 24 officers. It is 271. Rochester is down 11 of 65, and the state police are in need of 64 officers to meet its full staffing of 360.
It's a lot more demanding on the officers, because now they're going to cover.
And it's not just here in Nashua, along the coast in Hampton, they are desperately trying to fill their 50 part-time positions ahead of their busiest time of year.
In Hampton, they rely on part-time officers for the summer months when their population grows 9 times its average size.
So we really need those officers to come down and get to the piece.
That it started in, and they look to the business with retirees, military and National Guard members, and people who are interested in getting their foot in the door. In Nashua, Kelly O'Brien, and the Noir.
So those places have open doors to certified officers and I realize we can't compete with the Manchester and Nashville for pay and stuff like that, but they're hiring all the time, a lot more. And they want the certified officers, they don't want to have to spend $110,000 to train an officer or get a new guy on the road. They want the certified officers and they're paying for it. So. So it's so bad that the federal government and the Chiefs Police Association have come out with booklets on what to do to retain and hire officers. It's not getting any better. Unfortunately, it continues to decrease. So what I'm asking is a 3-step, technically, I guess you could say a 4-step raise program. For new hires, you'd see $33 an hour. After 1 year, they go up to 34, 2 years, 35, and they'd max out at 36. Once they're at 36, there's no raises beyond that unless it's negotiated with the town or however you want to say it. But Londonderry does this pay scale and their retention is exceptional. You bump up to maximum quickly, but then you keep them there. And it's a very difficult time to find another patrolman's position at $36 an hour. So maybe after 10, 15 years or something like that, if you're still at 36, you might be able to find something comparable if you get maybe a sergeant's position. But if you max them out quickly and then leave them at that, the incentive to leave is gone. You're not going to find another 3-year patrolman making $36 an hour. On the flip side, hiring, if we do lose an officer, this is an incentive. Not many other departments do this in the area. So once you get them up to maximum, after 3 years, 4 years of being here, they're more likely to stay. So we crunched some numbers. So the 2004 total budget is what we're at now. 2005, what we did is we made a scale of 3% raises until 2029 or 2029. Let's see here. So this number here is what we're now, this is retirement. This is the difference between the 3% step raise and the 3-step raise, if that makes any sense. So 2025, if we get another 3% raise, this is what the total would be. 436 plus 136. The step raise that we're asking for would be a total of 476 with 147 for retirement. The difference between the two is 52. So the town will be paying an extra $52,000 to implement what we're asking for in 2025 if we were to get another 3% increase. This goes to 2027, 2028, and 2029. So, but if you look at 2029, it's only an increase of $4,000 from what we're paying now if we get the 3% raise every year. That's the difference. So you go beyond that, the town's actually going to be saving money. They would be paying less in 2030 with this 3-step program than they would if we got consistently 3% raises every year. So what we would like to implement is $33 for their first year on probation. After probation every year, they go to 34, 35, 36. Corporals would just jump in at 37, 38, 39. And the sergeant would jump in 41, 42, 43, and 44. The application pool isn't what it was. I remember years ago, the Mass State Police used to fill the hockey arena, Boston North Station. I don't even think they do that anymore. I don't know where they do it, but they used to fill that place. Now they don't even come close. Again, departments all over the country are short-staffed. We're full-staffed. That's what I'm trying to continue to do. I'm a taxpayer as well in this town. I wouldn't be coming to you if I didn't think this was a necessity. I don't want to lose another officer. I don't want to have to train another officer. I don't want to spend $110,000 when for a fraction of that, we could hopefully retain the guys that we have now. We got a good crew. Our officers are young, which is good. If they stay, we'll have them for a long time. being down one officer is 13% of my department. When I became chief, we were 2 positions down, and then due to me getting promoted to chief, we were 3 positions down. That was a heck of a time, I will tell you. As I said before, I want Hopkinton to be the agency that sets the standard. I want to blaze a trail. I don't want to be playing catch up. Again, hiring efficiencies are going to get worse before they get better. And we're not going to lower our standard in order to be fully staffed. We're going to continue where we're at. And cost for a failed hiring process with making the phone calls, sending out the letters, setting up the time for the tests and the physical tests, advertising for it, it's anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000. I want to say we probably had 3 or 4 failed tests last year where we didn't find anybody. Again, it's great for recruitment if we do lose an officer, but we got to invest in the officers that we have. We put them through a lot of training. They know the town. And again, it's less expensive over the long run. If we continue to hire officers, it's going to continue to cost. And we're going to continue to see officers leave if we don't do something. And again, we are an entirely different entity than any other town department. No other department takes a year for an officer to be pretty much up on their own. None of them else have a 20-week academy, I think it's up to now. It just doesn't take that long for any other department to get their guys up and running. I have one more page. So I would love to answer any questions that you have. That's my pitch. I know it's a lot to take in a short amount of time. I realized again that, you know, money is an issue. It always is. But again, as a taxpayer, I'm trying to come to you, or as a chief, I'm trying to come to you to try and prevent us losing any officers, whether it's 1 or 2 or potentially 3. If I didn't think it was important, I wouldn't be in front of you. So. Is there any questions I can answer?
A question, Chief, and thank you for this. I had only had the 1-page spreadsheet before this, so I'm digesting what you've said now. The 4 officers you have all have different periods of service, but you'd be putting them all on the same rate.
So Officer Daniels, I think, has been here us with 4 years, so we would put him at the 36. Then there was 2 officers, I think, that would be at the 34, and then 1 officer that would be at the 33. When we did the spreadsheet that you have in front of you, I believe we had everyone maxed out. We had everyone at 36. Just we since changed that.
So theoretically, if the officer that would be starting in the first year at 36 would not be expecting a pay increase for the next 3 or 4 years based on.
So like a brand new officer?
No, the one that, the officer that has, this.
4 years, Officer Daniels?
6 years, 7 years experience.
Yeah, an officer with 6 or 7 years experience, he would be at 36, and he would stay at 36 until either 1, he got promoted, or 2, we came back to you guys and asked for, another step increase or something to that effect. But as of the way things go right now, it'd be 36 flat. He would not get any pay raises beyond that.
You wouldn't think that would be a disincentive or an incentive to look elsewhere? If the officer's feeling that the salary's frozen for the next 3-4 years?
Because of the quick jump from 33 to 36?
It's got the jump and then nothing.
Right. I don't believe so. I think that would help retain them. Again, it would help them strive to get promoted, to get the sergeant's position or another position, whatever is out there. But I don't think he's going to, even 5 years from now, I don't think he's going to be able to find a job making $36 an hour. I think he's going to have a hard time going somewhere else and making the amount of money that he was making then. I mean, if he's 15 years at $36 an hour, maybe, but again, I still don't know. I don't know what the hiring climate's going to be at that point, but I would think that they would come back and try to negotiate something after a few years and try and ask for maybe a raise after 7, 10 years, something to that effect. But that's something the chief at the time would have to come before you and ask for.
I didn't want to cut you off.
No, no,
Clifton.
go, please.
Chief, thank you for putting this all together. Actually, this is really, really interesting. How many officers you say, 16 officers have left?
I think more than that now. I think with Officer Stevens, that's probably 17, and there might be one other one that I'm not in there with, but yes.
Do we have any sense of why they left? Like the news clip mentioned exit interviews. Did we do anything like that to try to identify why they left?
The previous chiefs did not know.
Okay. Have any of those 16 left while you were chief?
16, no.
Okay.
Officer Stevens left and went to Pittsfield.
Okay.
He was a certified officer that we got, so we did not have to spend 110,000 to train him.
Yeah.
So he came and went.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, the other 16, 2, 3 went to Manchester. One went to Hillsborough, one went to Greenfield or out that way somewhere.
Okay.
So
Okay. I'm surprised to see that our patrol officer starting pay is, so much less than Webster's. That's interesting to note.
I know part of that is they're having a hard time hiring.
I think they've jacked it up
So they-
recently a
yeah.
lot. Yeah.
So
Okay.
they're trying to recruit, they just can't find anybody.
Yeah,
Which would be my,
your fear.
exactly. I
Yeah.
don't want to lose somebody and then not be able to replace them, which is definitely the issue with the trends that are going on and all that stuff. I mean, just.
And the way that this would work, so if we went forward with this and then hired someone January 1, how long what's the probationary period?
A year.
Okay, so it's kind of like a 4-year program then, because that probationary year is a year as well?
Right.
Okay. And the numbers that you've given us, they include the step rates for all 3 officer positions, so officer, corporal, and sergeant?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if is overtime, for say, this current year included, or is this just base salary?
That's just base.
So overtime would also have to be reflected in terms of a higher rate and additional costs.
It may, I would probably have to do a little bit of calculations and stuff like that, but to be on the safe side, I would probably want to bump that up a little bit, but, with being full staff, it would be less overtime because I would have officers we'd have the double coverage, So again, losing an officer, we'd have more overtime to cover those shifts and stuff like that, so.
Have you heard anything from our current officers, rumblings about them jumping to other departments?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
So,
What do you think is keeping them in town right now?
I think just, there's like an unwritten rule that you give the department that's trained you 3 years, so.
Okay.
It's not, it used to be contracted, but a lot of officers beat the contracts, so they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a gentleman's agreement that they'll stay 3 years
Okay.
and then essentially go.
Okay. And so if we did this, would we have contracts with each individual officer? Would it just be part of our personnel policy specific to police officers? Like, how would we sort of implement this? How would they know that they were going to be getting these step increases every year?
I would think we could do either, just put it in personnel policy or we could do contracts.
We haven't done contracts.
Yeah.
We've done policy.
And a personnel policy is not necessarily like a contractual agreement.
It's not, but the wage scale and that is all in there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And we do adhere to that wage scale.
We do.
Yeah. Okay.
And it gets updated every 3 years.
Okay.
Thank you for putting this together. This is super helpful. So many questions. Sorry. So for example, for Webster, if they're increasing their rate for hiring, do they then bring up the rate for everybody else, or is it just that one position they're filling?
I don't know the exact answer to that. My guess is that it would. I would say if you're hiring a patrolman at that rate.
Yeah.
Anybody above him would have to go up as well,
Okay.
you know, I mean. I don't, it wouldn't be fair to the officers who've been there 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
To have a new guy come in and make it more, so my assumption is that they'll, but. I don't think they have any patrolmen at this point.
Got it.
They have a chief, a part-time chief, a lieutenant, and then they're looking for a patrolman. They have a couple of part-time officers. So I don't think it's gonna affect anybody above them at this point.
Okay. So there's the training period, the academy period, then you said there's a 1-year probation period. Is that time that they are alone in the cruiser, or do they have to be paired up?
They can be alone, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Typically, it's, I wanna say 9 to 10 months to get them out on their own.
Okay.
But they're usually the second or third officer out. They're not out by themselves.
Yeah.
And they don't go to calls by themselves until usually after a year.
Got it. Okay. And then that, whatever period that they are with another officer, are those officers effectively pulling more overtime because you're short-staffed?
Yes, sometimes where being full staff, there's points where we do have 3 officers out for a couple hours
Okay.
overlap. If we're down, then yes, we don't have that overlap, so if somebody goes out sick or goes on vacation, then we have to use overtime to fill it.
Yeah.
If we have the officers, if we're full, when we are full staff, there's usually enough overlap that we can move people an hour or 2 to cover it without overtime.
Got it. And what's the overtime rate?
It's time and a half.
Time and a half?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
The hourly step figures for each classification, where did those come from?
They did a wage study,
Okay.
so that's about a 10-year average. 10 to 12-year average of, so the patrolman,
Who did a wage study?
it was Green.
Just that's.
I think it was Tina Loren, I don't know if Lorenz her last name still, but out of Greenland.
And it was New Hampshire specific
Yep.
wage study?
I could provide you with that if you like. I don't have it in front of me now, but I can get it to you.
Again, so I understand if this proposal was included in the budget and approved at town meeting, come April of 2025, would 5 of your 6 officers go right to max?
No. Officer Erickson would be, I think it's step 2. Officer Molnar and Officer Rush would be step 3, and then Officer Daniels would be step 4. Corporal Barton would be a step 1 on the corporals, and then the sergeant would be a step 4 on the sergeants. He's been here with us for.
So it's years in service here in town. Oh, okay, okay.
But it would be years that he's a sergeant.
Yeah, he's been a sergeant since I've been chief, so 3 years, yeah.
The retirement payments are that's just a fixed percentage on top of payments?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, they actually go down in 2025, I think. That's why if you,
July 1st of 2025.
yes,
It drops slightly. It's about a third. You can usually, it's right around 30.
The retirement payments would also relate to overtime payments.
Correct.
Thank you for putting this together for us. Did this idea come from one of these manuals?
it did not. I
Okay,
actually I found those afterwards.
okay.
But they do say that, if you read them, they do say that how do they put it? Monetary compensation is number 1 or number 2
Mhm.
in incentive to retain officers.
Have you seen other towns do this step?
I haven't seen it around this area yet. Like I said, Londonderry PD is kind of the forefront of it, that they have done it for a while. And their retention rate is very high.
Mhm.
Their numbers are higher than us. I want to say a max for patrolman was 89,000.
Mhm.
So
What hourly is that? Do you know?
don't.
I was gonna ask what they were using for their hourlies.
Um, About $42 an hour,
Okay.
42.70 ish.
In the absence of the steps, what's the normal like cost of living adjustment that happens with salaries, or is it just flat in salaries?
So the entire town is on the merit system.
Yeah.
So there are no steps. There are grades with ranges, but we don't have automatic steps. Everything is based on merit.
So would these, if we did these steps, would those also be increased based on that merit pool?
No,
They would be separate. Okay.
Which you should consider the effect this could have on the morale of our other 30 employees
Yeah.
too.
And what do you think are other things that entice officers to stay or switch that are not base pay?
one was take home cruisers, which was mentioned in the recruitment and retention for the Boston Law Enforcement Agency. That was up there. Different stipends for like night differential. If you're an instructor for a certain baton, well, we don't have like a taser instructor. While you're doing it, you get while you're doing the training, you get an extra stipend for that. Field training, if you're a field training officer, you get an extra stipend while you're field training. There's a bunch of those. Trying to think what else. Take home car. Oh, additional days off, better schedule, stuff like that. Which I've tried to implement the stuff that doesn't cost the town stuff. Like before, we weren't allowed to have beards or facial hair or anything. We had to be clean cut. And the officers approached me and wanted to change it. And to be honest with you, I'm a clean cut kind of guy. Despite this, I do like the traditional look, but you know what? They wanted it. I asked the surrounding towns. They all said that they let it happen. And I'm like, does it cost the town a dime? So go for it, as long as they keep it nice and trim and neat, we tried to adjust the schedule to appease as many of them as we can. You can't please everybody, but for the most part, I think they're all pretty happy with the schedule that they have. So, I'm trying to implement the things I can do that don't cost money.
Maybe you said this and I missed it, but where did the annual 3% sort of baseline increase come from?
We kind of just pulled it out of a hat. That's just kind of been the average over the years that I've been here.
Okay.
We've gotten 1.5%, we've gotten 6%, so we kind of pulled it out of a hat and just said 3%.
Yeah, okay.
Need more time to think of questions.
I mean, I appreciate all of this. I still have the concern that if somebody gets bumped up to max and if they don't get any increases for X number of years thereafter, there might be an incentive to leave.
It could be. My hope is that that $36 is more than they would be able to find somewhere else. And again, nothing saying that it won't be me, but 5, 6, 7 years, the current chief might say, hey, we need to bump that up another $1 or something to that effect, to kind of appease the guys. And, if the pay scale is creeping up to where we're at, then, that would the chief would have to come in and ask for another raise at that point. you know, so. Cause I couldn't see a guy going 15 years being paid the same amount, you know, so.
No.
So,
So if this is, and I'm just trying to figure out how this would all work. You know, if we did this, if it's not related at all to the merit pay, then when we did a merit pay increase,
we would be exempt.
it would be on top, you'd be either exempt or be on top of all of this.
The way we structured it, we would be exempt.
Okay,
So we would just do the step to 36 or whatever, and then that's it.
Okay.
No merit raise or anything.
okay.
So the pool wouldn't include them, but the budget would.
Right, right. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess my other sort of concern is the other town employees and sort of how to explain to them why the police officers are locked into, you know, this sort of a step rate. And yeah, I guess I do worry about how that may impact the other town employees.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I kind of say, you know, we're different, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
we're the only department that carries a weapon. We're the only one that has the right to take somebody's life if we need to. We're the only department that takes a year to get up and running and $110,000. We're the only one that has to go through academy besides the fire department, but typically, I don't think they've had anybody go through the academy in a long time. You know, so that's a kind of a way of differentiating ourselves. I'm sure it's still gonna, you know, some of them aren't gonna be happy, but I mean, again, I don't know how their hiring has been, or their retention. I know that a couple of departments have hired a couple here and there, but it doesn't cost any other department $110,000 to train an officer, you know, or train one of them, you know, so. I see where you're coming from, and I feel that as well. But again, you know, I mean, we're the only department that works 24 hours besides the fire department, but they.
On the highway when it snows.
Yes.
Just to be fair to everyone.
But, so I understand that concern,
yeah,
but
Yeah, I think it's a matter of, I mean, this is one thing to consider among several. And I mean, one thing we have not talked about recently, although I think we have in the past, is maybe something like a retention bonus, possibly. I do think there's a balance of, you know, being aware of the dynamic with other town employees and also recognizing the cost and the other distinctions for the police department. And I do think if there was another department that was having issues with retention or hiring, you know, we would be open to listening to ideas that fit that department. So I think it is, you know, a balance. So I think I also would like to have Jeff see this and digest it too. So maybe unless we have any other pressing questions, we can take this back for consideration, or do you want to have any other pressing questions at the moment?
I think that makes sense.
Okay. All
and
right.
if you want me to come back and, you know, answer questions, just let me know. I'm more than welcome to, and
Okay.
anything that you need, I can get you that pay scale if you like.
that's okay. I mean, you're gonna be back before us, I think, to go through the budget.
Relatively soon, yeah. Lucky you. Thank you for this. We appreciate the thought and
Give me the time,
time.
I appreciate it.
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, if we hire a uncertified officer and he has to go to the academy for a year and it costs us $110,000, does he work for us at all during that period?
Not while he's in the academy.
Okay, so my question is, if we hire somebody and we spend the money to train them, are they under any kind of contractual obligation to fill out a certain amount of time? So if they can take our training, go someplace else, and we're at 110.
Absolutely.
Well, that's crazy. Because I say that is because we're investing in their career, and they should have an obligation to either, work for X amount of time or do a clawback.
And we tried, not us, I should say we, but police agencies have tried to make a contract and officers have gotten out of them. Actually, I think way back when I first started, there was an officer here that got out of contract. So as of right now, it's usually just a gentleman's agreement handshake that, hey, listen, if we hire you, we're looking to stay at least a minimum of 3 years.
Yeah.
And we've had some leave before the 3 years. Nobody recently, but, and then the officers that we have now. I think they're coming up, one will be 3 years. Two will be 3 years coming up in May, I think. And then, we have an officer about just over a year, so.
Well, I guess my thought is that if we had somebody who wanted to bail, you know, and go to another department, then possibly or probably the other department should pick up the costs that we're running up that we paid for. So if they've worked a year, that would be 1/3 of 110,000. Or 2/3, that, you know, the other department should pay. It's like a recruiting thing.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be out that kind of money for somebody to walk and go to a better job.
Yeah, well, can't force people to
Some,
stay to work.
some towns have actually done that, but it's really based on people's goodwill, not on anything legal, because the courts have held that you can't bind them to that, so.
Goodwill is nice, but contracts are better.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot of money here.
Yeah,
Are we accepting questions? If you're not, that's a good.
Well, unless anyone objects, I'm fine if people have questions for Chief, if you're okay with that.
It's just a data question.
Could people come up though, because it's not for me, it's for the people online.
The two questions I have, I kept hearing you say the 110 number.
Yep.
And I know that that was not in recent history, but is it represented in our historical financial data? So if we looked at town budgets in that particular year, excuse me, do we see that we were then our budget was thrown off that year because we spent that money and then had to spend that money again within a 1 year time frame? Like, how did we budget and then how did we spend that and where did that money come from?
So yes, we do budget for it. You know, it's the pay is there, so you're not gonna see it when we hire somebody, but you'll see like the uniform line would be a lot higher because I had to buy uniforms for 2 officers. You might see the overtime line go up a little bit because training 2 officers. So there's certain line items that'll go up, but like the pay is not gonna change because it's set, it's there. And at the end of the year, you might see a little bit more of a surplus because I didn't have an officer filling all the positions.
Well, that makes sense. I was just curious because if you wanted to make the argument at a budget level, comparing the years in which, like what this cost was versus what you would be saving with the STEP program. And then the other question I just had was, when last time did the officers, particularly the ones who are maxing out, like at that 3-year mark that you're getting a little bit nervous, when is the last time they got a raise?
Last year.
Last year?
Yep.
And have they historically gotten raises every year?
Yep.
And would this locked in rate of $1 be substantially larger than the previous raises they've gotten in some way?
From what they're at now to the step?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, I wanna say there's 2 officers making maybe $28, $29 an hour.
Yeah.
So yes, the $36 would be sleeping.
And so even putting the floor at 33 would raise everyone up regardless. So that's like so the proposal's twofold. One, it's increasing what is the baseline that an officer is hired at,
Yes,
but then also putting in place what are the steps and the max it gets to.
yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That was all.
All right, well, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all that you do.
All right, thank you.
You got your stick, right?
Uh,
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
All right, that is our only public appointment. So next up, under old business, we have the Dufault land donation. So Ron's joining us.
I do have a copy and I have another truck. Okay. Both.
Neil, do you want to update us or should Ron just jump right in?
So if you, I think you had the deed, which you had in advance, and you have both comments from town council who first went through it, and then our regular town council just added some notes, and Ron got copies of those today too.
Okay,
So he may be able to comment, which may
right, okay.
make it quicker, not.
So my name is Ron Klamarzik. I am currently chair of the Hopkinton Conservation Commission and a member of the Open Space Committee. However, this evening I am representing Dave Dufo, who's been a longstanding client of mine, and so I'm not speaking for the Conservation Commission or the Open Space Committee. As you know, we submitted the deed for the town to review, which they did do, and their attorney sent back some comments. Some we agree with, some we have some concerns with. But the hope was that the town would accept the property so that the deed could be recorded on November 7th, which is the anniversary of Dave's wife's passing. And there's no major issues, so to speak, but I can go over the first one. Their comment was on deed restriction number 1. This restriction allows for the other recreational uses in addition to hiking, cross-country skiing, and snowshoeing. And since it has but not limited to language, so it allows other uses, but they recommend limiting this list to specific uses that will be allowed, so there's no ambiguity. Both Dave and I feel that there's hundreds of many uses that could happen in the forest, and trying to list all of them would then could exclude some. For example, mountain biking did not exist as a sport 30 years ago. So we would rather leave it as it is, and then the discretion of the managing agent, whether it's the Conservation Commission or the town of Hopkinton, as to what would be allowed if it's not clearly consistent with the deed. So, I mean, we're looking for outdoor recreational uses and listed the ones that are currently going on there. We do not, you did not list mountain bike use, but that's covered under but it is allowable. Which then leads to the second one. It says Hopkinton's trail use policy allows for mountain biking, so that policy should be updated upon this purchase to inform the public that they will be prohibited from mountain biking on this property. In that one, they did a complete misread of our restriction. This restriction says trails made specifically for mountain bikes or a mountain bike park shall be prohibited. So mountain biking isn't prohibited. This came as a result of New England Mountain Bike Association has made trails on the Concord City forests that were, specifically designed for mountain biking. They have jumps, some weird curves and stuff, and somewhat difficult to hike along, or very different from their normal hiking trails. And so Dave preferred that, okay, we just want the hiking trails, mountain bikers can use it, but we do not want trails made specifically for mountain biking. So, I mean, we could add mountain biking to that first one that shows that we allow it, but some of the issues that we've had in Concord, City of Concord is also a client of mine. I'm their consultant forester. So we didn't really want to promote it for mountain biking, but it is allowable. So, okay. Number 3, hunting and trapping for nuisance animals is ambiguous, and we agree with their recommendations to be a little more specific, having a licensed professional wildlife control company to hunt or trap wild animals on the property. So we would acquiesce to their suggestion on that one. They had no problem. Number 4, the provision against motorized vehicles, or number 5, structures. Regarding timber harvesting, they said that they think restrictions need to be more specific. To clarify that, in the town's sole discretion, the town may engage a licensed professional forester using best management practices to harvest timber for forestry and conservation purposes. That's language that comes out of a typical conservation easement, and that would be no problem. We could change the restrictions to more include what they're trying to say here, that if there is to be timber harvesting, it does have to include a licensed forester using best management practices. And best management practices in the state are understood to be wetlands, compliance with all wetlands laws, as well as the practical silvicultural prescriptions for that particular type of forest. For example, there are forests that we do recommend clear cutting or parts thereof for silvicultural reasons. In Concord, I have a stand of beech trees that are dying, and I'm clear cutting it to try to, and leaving pine and oak around the perimeter to try to seed that in. But to clear cut the whole 110 acres is not a proper recommendation. So that's where the best management practices phrase, kind of controls that. So we would agree with that. Number 7, the prohibition of selling for development. We had no problem with that one. They say it's fine also. And then the last one that came from the second attorney said, I recommend removing any reference to town forest within the deed as they could create too much confusion. Town forest appears to be used as a defined term, but the deed does not actually define the term or make any reference to RSA 31:111. This creates doubt as to the owner's intent, which could result in future litigation. Also, the town cannot guarantee that town meeting will vote to designate this parcel a town forest. If this was signed and recorded prior to the next year's meeting, even assuming the question is placed on the warrant, what happens in the event that there's a no vote? Presumably the deed would be either void or voidable at the donor's discretion. I've been doing this for so long, and the town has always supported the Conservation Commission on designating lands for town forest. That it didn't occur to me, but I had made that assumption that it would go through town meeting. But I do understand their concerns. If for some reason it voted no, that would create some confusion. Talking things over with Dave, we would, his intent is that it does create a town forest, so we could include in that restriction or the comments, town forest, define it as under RSA 31:111, which defines what a town forest is and how it's designated. But he would still like to keep reference to the town forest because that's what he is hoping that it becomes. And I guess I'd kind of like the board's opinion on that. Do they feel comfortable bringing it up to town meeting? The town has not been hostile to this type of an action, and I would hope that they would recognize Dave's generosity in donating this land in that it would become a town forest. So we could include, defining town forest, but and with the assumption that it would be voted in at town meeting in order to meet this November 7th date that Dave is hoping for. So we would revise these restrictions and then submit it to the town for the final review, but we're hoping that would be done by November 7th.
So, no, you guys go. Ken
I was
first.
just, what would happen if at town meeting they said no?
Right.
And I'd be very surprised, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking you. Well, there's two things could happen. As I mentioned, it could be said if it's not designated town forest, then the deed is then void, and he could do whatever he wants with it. So.
Okay.
Oh.
I guess my suggestion, because I understand that Mr. Dufault wants to try to close this out and report it fairly soon before town meeting.
Yeah.
What if, and this is, I'm speaking, just off the cuff, I have no idea what the other board members think of this, but what if we took out of the deed the reference to it being designated as a town forest, and the donation of the land was conditioned on us putting a warrant or an article on the warrant to have it be designated as town forest. And, assuming a quorum of the board was in favor of that, then that would also be our recommendation to the voters to pass that article. And so you'd get to the same place, hopefully, but if it failed, it wouldn't invalidate the gift entirely, which I think is the concern.
Right, and if it's gifted to the town with these restrictions, the restrictions are still protecting it.
Right.
And but again, part of the thing was to getting it designated a town
Yeah,
forest.
and-
And so I think, I don't know, Dave, do you have any thoughts? I think Steve came up with a pretty good idea, but.
Does sound good, and it gives a little bit of impetus to the people to say, yeah, we'll take it, because if you don't accept it as a town forest, I want it back.
Yep.
And I'll look around for somebody else that will, the state wetlands mitigation people were interested in that land a while back.
And I appreciate that position, but I mean, we up here can't control what the voters do at town meeting and so,
Yeah.
you know, we can think it's the best thing in the world, but
Yeah.
people can disagree about that and vote no. And if we've already recorded the deed, then that's gonna be tricky to unravel, I guess is my concern.
All you do is write it on a deed, make the first one void.
Yeah.
Not that. No, I appreciate the idea, the suggestion is good.
Rob Knight is,
Yeah, we had another donated property, and I think the town agreed that it would not record the deed until after town meeting. The deed was signed, but it wasn't recorded until. Well, the town meeting approved it.
My personal feeling is, I'd like to give the town the land. Don't want to take it by this November 7th. I will wait until November 7th, 2025. In the meantime, I may expire, and who knows what's going to happen to the land then. But it's kind of important to me for personal reasons, to have November 7th as the deed recording date and signing of the deed. It's silly, I know, but hey, I'm a silly old man.
That's not silly at all, actually. I think I get where you're coming from.
yeah, so I mean, if everything, I like this idea, if I don't know logistically, I don't know enough about deeds and process to know if the voters did reject it, which, you know, seems like it would be unlikely,
Unlikely.
but if it did happen, then we would just have to figure out, you know, how to deal with it then, I
Yeah.
guess.
Just, again, it would just be like Dave said, deed it back or put it in the deed that it would be void. So in the deed would define what would happen if it didn't go through a town meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that seems to make the most sense. I wish that we could, you know, be done with it, but obviously it has
Right.
to be voted on as forest officially.
Yep.
So that seems like a reasonable path forward from my perspective.
I'd agree, certainly being even farther than these two on legal terms.
Yeah.
But, and I appreciate, Dave, I want to thank you.
Well.
No, it sounded like you're willing to revise the other items in the deed
Mhm.
to comply with the attorney's concerns.
Other than the one about mountain biking is prohibited,
Yes,
that's,
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
I love picking apart a lawyer, but, Okay. No, actually, I took Charles Tucker, I took law courses from him at UNH back in my student days, so.
Nice.
Mm.
Digit, do you have thoughts or?
As chair of the open space committee, I would just like to say that David and Karen came to us 15 years ago to offer this to the town. It's taken a while, and it's been through a number of twists and turns. If there's a way to make this happen as expeditiously as possible, and meet Dave's perfectly reasonable condition here, I think that it would behoove the town to do so.
I mean, Ron and Dave, do you guys have plans to be at town meeting? Because I think you guys speaking to the residents would be very powerful to get what you're asking for.
As far as I know, I'm planning to be at town meeting.
You were, yeah, but
You know, in that vein, in your experience, has there been any pushback to moving land into town forest?
The 2003, the town voted with a large majority to bond up to $5 million to protect open space. And then the town through the open space committee probably spent only half of that. And then 2008 recession hit, and the selectman back then said, you know, this is we really don't want to acquire any more land. But the Open Space Committee and the Conservation Commission still stayed active and have acquired several parcels and protected several parcels, either through easements or through acquisitions with grants and donations. All of those have been supported by the town. And whenever we had a vote for a town forest designation, it always went through, especially where it hasn't been costing the taxpayers any money. We seem to get a lot of support for the land protection. There has been pushback regarding, well, they're taking away land from possible development. Right now, less than 30% of the town is protected, including the flood control area, which means that, over 70% of the town still can be developed, so we're not, squeezing out the last acre here from housing. So.
I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, there were 4, I think it was 3 or 4 town forests were added. And I don't recall really any negative pushback at all when that was done. It was done pretty easily.
I'm comfortable under the circumstances with what they're willing to offer
Mhm.
with, to clean up the mountain bike thing as well.
Yeah, and then we add the condition to the deed itself.
Sounds like they wanted it
Yeah.
itself. Yeah.
Okay. So who's taking that step?
We will. Yeah.
All right. Do we need to vote officially, or we have consensus, or?
I think it might be a good idea to vote to accept the deed
Yeah.
pending with the agreed upon changes.
And I would also say to delegate to you, Brittany, the ability to sign.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I think that it's very important to Mr. Dufault to be able to sign it and record it on the
Right,
7th.
okay.
So we are meeting again
Or-
in a week though, so we could.
Are we?
Monday.
2
No,
weeks.
we're not.
Oh, we
The
called
election.
out.
Next week's the election.
Yeah,
Oh, we're not meeting on the Monday before anymore?
Yep.
Oh, that's on the agenda later. I know. So I skipped that.
So you made the motion?
Sort of, kind of, yeah.
wait, would I normally sign or would all of us normally sign a deed, or how?
We.
It's
Well,
not a sale, it's just an acceptance.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, and Dave would be the one signing it over to the town, so you just have to sign to accept it.
Yeah, okay. All right, that makes sense. Steven's gonna make that motion.
Oh, I am. I make a motion that we accept the donation of this piece of property with the changes that were agreed upon between the parties tonight. And I further move that we give the chair of the select board the authority to accept the land once those changes have been made.
Oh, I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so thank you to everyone who has worked on this, and to Mr. Dufault for your generosity.
Thank you.
Appreciate everyone's work on this. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
I will write some stuff up tomorrow morning, so, all
Okay.
right, thank you.
Dave, could you come up here?
Picture time?
In memory of my wife, she felt very strongly that she enjoyed the town so much and that land.
Okay, well, listen, in appreciation of A. David Dufault for his generous gift of Karen's Woods in memory of his wife to forever protect wildlife habitat, forest resources, and outdoor recreation opportunities within the town of Hopkinton. 7/24, and thank you very, very much.
Mention should be made that Don Lane, way back when that $5 million bond was passed. This was one of the first properties that Don was interested in on behalf of the boards. And at that time, Karen said, David, why don't you wait? Give it to the town.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. So that brings us to new business. First up, Cedar Street closing for Starry Weekend.
Sure, you have the letter. What they'd like to do in front is close Cedar Street for that on December 7th from 8 to 8 and December 8th from 8 to 5.
Thank you
It can still be accessed from the other side. And there would be food trucks and they're going to, the plan is to have a martini bar, I believe, on the deck. And use the new restaurant, which I think will be extremely popular, if for no other reason but to see what's there. Both the police and the fire department have no issue with this. It seems like a reasonable thing from their perspective. So, but it's your call.
Okay.
Where would it be closed to?
To just the others, it's really just in front of the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
So that
You would still
public
have,
parking area right there, would that be open?
it would,
Okay.
yep. And actually you could get into the driveways, your driveway, which is right across the street.
Okay.
You would still have access.
Okay. Does anyone have any issues?
No, I think that
I think
sounds really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably just vote to do that. That would be great.
I move to grant the request from Discover Kentucky to close a portion of Cedar Street during Starry Weekend as they've requested tonight.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay. Thank you to Discover Kentucky and everyone working on that. Sounds like it'll be fun. Okay. So next we have our meeting schedule. So for the remainder of the year and 2025.
So this is the schedule as it's set. I think you voted already to move the budget all back. So that's at the general election and then meeting weekly. It seems like the December meetings fall okay, provided people are going to be here December 23rd. So I thought it would be good to check now.
I'll be here for that, but I will not be here for the November 25th, that Thanksgiving week, that
Oh,
Monday
that's
meeting.
Another tough one. I will be around for both.
I think Jeff is gone. I should have grabbed, I think he might be gone the 12th and 25th.
Is traveling for Thanksgiving?
No, we're around.
Okay.
I should be around.
Okay.
And the 23rd will probably be a relatively short meeting with just signatures. But the way it falls, if you don't meet there, it's a long, really long stretch.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. And then for 25, I've noticed we do conflict with like every school vacation, it seems like.
That would be good.
Actually, I believe January 13th, that's when MLK weekend will be. I think that would be the long weekend. Isn't it always the Monday?
Is it listed on Tuesday? Let me pull it up.
Oh, maybe I have the
One
wrong.
second.
January 13th is a Monday. So I think that's the holiday weekend. Oh, wait, no,
I
it looks
think
like it's
the
the
next,
20th.
it would
Okay,
be
I
the
was
next
wrong. Yeah.
weekend.
Okay, good. So that works. And then February 24th, I believe that is, yeah, that's school vacation week.
Yeah.
I will be gone. I don't know
You
if
want to
others will be.
move that or cancel it
You all
potentially
can carry
adding
on
one?
without me, but I don't know if others with school age people will be.
I will
Traveling,
almost definitely
definitely.
go.
You're probably gone,
I have
okay.
no idea.
And then Jeff is gone a lot in the winter, so
Mhm.
that's a definite, a maybe / likely.
Let's move it.
Jeff is
Yeah.
probably gone.
Let's kick
Stephen
that
may be
one for
gone.
the first week in March.
So if we do that, should we, then we can cancel the 10th? Or is that, because we've got town meeting in there? Or no, the election.
The election's the next day.
That's the
Um,
night before the election.
So that actually is it, if we do the 3rd, March 3rd instead and cancel the 10th, is that too long of a stretch until we'll have town meeting in there, I guess. Because town meeting's on the 20th, right?
Town meeting, yes.
Okay. Should we switch it to cancel the February 24th one, move that to March 3rd for now, cancel March 10th? For now? Or have two in a row there? I don't know. That.
You could schedule March 3rd, and at that point you could, decide to cancel March 10th.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Ken.
Okay.
So cancel February 24th, add March 3rd,
And maybe we'll cancel March 10th.
cancel March 10th.
That's a
Actually,
TBD.
I don't think I'm there the 3rd. Would it be easier just to cancel that February meeting and do we need a meeting in between? I guess it's a long stretch, the 10th.
You could cancel it, well, by then we'll be getting pretty close to town meeting.
Yeah.
You'll know if you need one.
What if we moved the meeting on the 24th up a week? And so we met February 10th and February 17th. 17th is President's Day,
Hmm.
So that would be a Tuesday.
but I mean, that would give us, we wouldn't have to not have a meeting.
And then keep the 10th.
That is kind of a quiet time generally because the warrant's done,
Yeah. Why don't we just cancel February 24th?
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if we need another meeting in there, we can
add it in
add
at
it.
a time.
Unless, is it a pain that we're meeting March 11th the day before? I mean, sorry, we're meeting March 10th the day before March 11th, which is election day.
Not so, it's not like the presidential.
Right, okay, okay.
It's a lot quieter. It's not so hard that day.
Is everyone okay with that? If we just cancel February 24th and then
I'm okay
add,
with it.
can add as needed? Okay, and then the next
April,
April's fine, except the 28th is vacation week, I think.
Oh, yeah. I know that, I think we'll be out of town for that 28th.
Mhm. I don't know if I will be. Hmm. So we'll have gone from March, oh, we have on the 24th, okay. What if we just move back to, what if we just do April 7th and, oh wait, sorry, no, the 14th is there, okay. Are you a maybe on that school, the April vacation week? I'm
Same
a
as the
maybe.
February one. I won't
Yeah.
go until like the week before.
Okay,
what if April was the 7th and 21st?
yeah, that makes sense.
Because there's a 5th week in there.
Oh, yeah,
And
that'd be fun.
I think probably believe it, there'll be Ken said meet every week.
I think you should meet every week starting,
Tomorrow.
March 20,
First,
Fourth.
yeah.
every week of the year.
Uh-huh,
But with a new board, even just for orientation and
Right,
stuff, I
right,
think
right.
you don't want to go
good point.
too long.
So yeah, how about we just bump April to the 7th and the 21st? That work?
Yeah,
That works.
Okay,
That's actually better to meet sooner after town meeting than later.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. May, we've got Memorial Day in there, okay. Mhm.
And there's no general election in November, so we don't have to worry about that.
Too bad the resolution.
Okay, I think. I mean, for now. The rest of this looks good.
Mhm.
Okay, so we decided February, we're canceling the 24th.
Yes.
Okay,
And then April will be the 7th and
And-
21st.
and town meeting is March 20th at 6 p.m.
Yes. Although I don't think you officially voted, so I just wanted
Okay.
to make sure, but that's that same Thursday night as last year.
Mhm.
That seemed to be pretty popular.
Should we vote then now just to make it official?
I don't think you need to vote. We'll put it on the warrant and you'll vote. Unless you want to.
If we have consensus on March 20th at 6 PM. We're probably good.
Okay.
Okay.
The second night on the 21st.
We're staying past midnight.
And Ken's term isn't done till the meeting adjourns, just remember.
Conflict on the 21st.
Okay. All right, next up, we have town administrator updates.
All right, project updates. Briar Hill is looking good. It's all been paved. Remember, this is the first coat of pavement. It will totally get the top coat next year. Solar is moving forward again, which is good. Our stuff is in. Lagoons, we talked about last time, work is continuing on that, getting the permitting in and finalized, although DS has been happy with it. So that's all moving well. Staffing update, last Monday, Lisette Sid started as our human service coordinator, which is exciting. Mike Ciriello filled on a full-time basis the empty DPW position. So that was good. So that went almost seamlessly. So that was really good. I've reached out and am working and should bring to you. Somebody's interested in buying Horseshoe Tavern and would move it versus having it removed, which we might lose our deposit, but it would still save us a lot of money on that.
okay.
So we'll keep moving on that. And the supervisors of the checklist, by the time we get to the election or just after the election, will be fully in this building. They want to be here and we've got space and we've been working on that around everything else they're doing. We'll be able to turn off our internet at the Bates building and we'll get that area cleaned and used largely for record storage in that spot. So that will be good. They're excited to be here. It will make it easier for them interacting and with Christine especially. And then their public meetings are here anyways because Bates isn't accessible. So that's good, I think. And then, and budget wise, that's on here too. Tomorrow is the budget summit with department heads. So we all meet, have lunch, go through all the budgets. And so we're getting close to having sort of those final numbers for you to begin your work. So we've been doing this for a number of years. I think it's really helpful for everybody to see all the budgets and see the big picture because all the individual budgets always are very justifiable, very good. It's when you add them up that really is the big thing. So we basically walk through the entire budget and each department head explains their budget to everyone there. It's also good practice getting ready for the presentations and stuff. Something new this year is each department will have a one sheet sort of explanation of their department and some of their key features. This year is probably the hardest to do that. And now we'll be able to update different things that have happened and goals for the year. Depending on some of them will be different because like the library has good statistics, for example, and the town clerk's office has good statistics, but EDC is doing a lot of work that you might not see the results for 10 years. So those will be a little different, but hopefully it will give a better sense, especially to the budget committee, which was looking for this, of what each department does. So the books will be arranged a little bit differently with every department separated, not necessarily by the budget number, but by what that department head is responsible for. So it should be easier You open your book and basically walk through a section with one instead of flipping around. So, right now, I think the budget is still in that 3 to 4% increase range, the operating budget. And the capital stuff is where a lot of work will probably have to be done. But I think overall at the moment, it's at like a 16% increase with everything. And sometimes we've started at 35, so that's like half of where it is. That doesn't mean it's going to be half as easy or twice as easier.
Okay.
I think that's it.
It's reval update is on here. Is that, did
Oh.
you see?
The reval is complete. The MS1 is in. And so we've got the actual number at this point, provided DRA. We give them the information, so they're not going to change that. And so hopefully within the next week or two, we'll be able to set the tax rate. So, and go forward, because it will be good to see that, because that's what everybody's really waiting for.
Mhm.
And the overall town assessment is up about 75%.
Yeah, I think when I figured it last, it was 75%. I'll do another run, but that's, I'm also finding I track unscientifically sales. The real estate agencies send out all the sales, and we're really close. There are a couple that are really hot, that sold a lot higher than assessed value, a few that sold lower, but for the most part, we're right on. And actually, I think the average sale compared to assessed value is within $5,000. So they are pretty close, which is kind of amazing. It's good to see that we're there. There are a few people that I think sold low. And some that probably were overassessed.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Kim?
Neil, when do we expect to be able to see the first cut of the budget?
We always have it the Wednesday before your Monday. For sure.
So
We'll try to have it I know you want it for election day, so we'll try to get you something for that day to look at.
thank you.
Although I really think you're going to be too busy to look at the budget, but that's okay. We'll have.
12 hours. I hope there's just a little bit of time.
That scares me that you think we'll be that busy.
I
Yeah.
just remember 4 years ago, it was pretty straight out the entire time,
Well, it'll go quickly then.
which is good.
And any word from Eversource with regards to connecting the solar array at the wastewater treatment?
No, they're taking a long time is what we're hearing.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too. I'm hoping
So.
we have different experience.
And Revision is doing that, so they'll let us know when it's done.
And for your information, Community Power Coalition is now coming out with an annual town rate. And it's for 2025, it's going to be 8.9 cents. And you could, I don't know what rate we have, or we're locked in for 2025.
I will check. I know we're gonna switch to community power at some point, not too long from now, because that was the best rate. So
And I'm not promoting it, I'm just providing the information. Okay, yeah.
and we still haven't seen any information on the residents that didn't get switched to community power.
No, and I both Mark and I have talked to people at.
I knew you would
And
reach
they're
out.
pushing Eversource to get the information, and unfortunately, we're not the only town in this situation.
Okay, so it wasn't as simple as Hopkinton
And
could do.
just for the rest of the board, when Eversource sent to the Community Power Coalition the list of meters or residents, customers in town that are on the utility default power, they didn't send the complete list. And so there were some customers, we don't know how many, that would have been expecting to be switched for October or November that might not be. And we're pushing the coalition is pushing Eversource, and Eversource doesn't budge. But that's, if somebody calls up and says, how come I haven't been switched? That's the reason.
All right. So we can do public forum. If anyone has any public comments online, you can raise your hand. All right.
I have one clarification. It's actually a cocktail bar, not a martini bar that's gonna be on deck. That's.
Cocktail bar for Starry Weekend. Very.
From that's better.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Read this into some fairly limiting.
Okay, well, does anyone have anything for other? All right, well, thank you to everyone who came and joined us tonight. We appreciate it. We have one non-public, so we will vote to go into non-public and then we will adjourn. We will not conduct any other business. Thank you, everyone. I'll make a motion that we go into non-public under 91A 32E legal.
I'll second.
All right, so roll call, Stephen?
E is not legal.
I think it is. It's not-
Oh,
Negotiations and pending.
got
claim.
it. I was thinking of legal advice. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll second. Or no, am I voting in favor?
You're just saying,
I vote in favor, yes.
yes.
I'm a yes and Thomas.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Sign.